Good afternoon and welcome to the regular council meeting of April 24th, 2022. I call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. I will call for added items if council has any added items. I do not have an added item, but I will note that I do have the added report to 8A that will be updated on the agenda to include on for viewers after the council meeting for the MAP minutes. So those will be added to 8A. We do not need a motion for that, though. And seeing there's no added items, let's get an adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that we adopt the agenda for Monday, April 24th, 2022 for the regular council and closed meeting agenda. Or 2023, sorry. My apologies.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blatz. We have a motion on the floor. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor of the adoption of the agenda as presented, thank you. That's carried. Moving down to proclamations and announcements. It is April 28th, Day of Mourning. On the National Day of Mourning, we will pause to honor those that lost their lives or were injured at work. I would take 30 seconds here now as this is upcoming this week. So please join me. Thank you, council members and staff and viewers. We will now move down to the page 3, 2A, regular council meeting agenda for the minutes of April 11th. A motion, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would make the motion that we accept the council accept the regular council meeting minutes of April 11th, 2023.
Does council have any questions? Additions, deletions? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. I will move to item number 3 at this time and ask if anybody has any business arising from the minutes. Seeing none, then we'll move right into page 9 of your agenda. And that will be a public hearing and consideration for second and third readings of Bylaw 2023-10, Land Use Bylaw for an amendment. I will call the public hearing open at 1:03 p.m. Prior to looking in the gallery and seeing the gallery empty, at this time I still will ask who's speaking to this, please? Good. Please approach the podium. I've got the development officer on my notes, but Kyle, please go ahead and give us the purpose and effect of this proposed bylaw.
Thank you. The proposed bylaw amendment is to add some regulation for election signage in the town of Olds. Election signs were defined in Schedule D of the land use bylaw, but we didn't have any regulations, or we currently don't have any regulations surrounding how to regulate them. This amendment doesn't seek to apply too many regulations to it, just to add some clarity for signage on public property, on town-owned property, about size and locations of where signage is allowed. Well, on private property, we don't really want to regulate too much. We don't want to ask for permits. We really just want to ensure that the signage doesn't create a hazard to motorists or pedestrians. And yeah, if anybody has any questions about the proposed amendment.
Thank you very much for that. Again, there's no one in our gallery, so I will not explain the procedures that need to be followed at this time. And I will go directly to council for any comments, questions. Councillor Walsh.
Just curious, maybe for some clarification, I see that letter F is an exception to A. I'm just wondering if it would be more appropriate to say election signs may be installed on public or private property except, instead of using F as another line.
That is an option. That can be, the amendment can be amended, I guess, to, to be written that way if preferred. I see what you're saying, though.
Good. Does council have consensus on that? It seems that we can leave that with you then. Thank you, Kyle. Is there any further questions? All right. Thank you for coming to be with us today, Kyle. And if that, I will then declare the public hearing closed at 1:06 p.m. and we'll move directly to our bylaw. I would ask for a council member to give second reading. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council gives second reading to bylaw number 2023-10 and
Thank you. We've got second reading on the floor. Pardon me? As amended? Yes, thank you. And if there's no further questions, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Third and final reading, please. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw number 2023-10. As amended.
Thank you very much. And I will call then for third and final reading. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Very good. We will now move to page 31 of our agenda. Oh, sorry. I am out of line here. We are now going to our delegations at this point. And we have a presentation today from Oldstoberfest. So I would ask Jillian to approach, and our CAO, who, would you like to introduce Jillian, or I can certainly do that? Okay. Welcome, Jillian, for your report on Oldstoberfest for us this year. Good to see you again.
Hello, good afternoon. It's great to be back for my annual visit to see you all. I'm a little bit smaller than probably the last time you saw me. Great to be back. Always lovely to see all of you, and thank you for having me today. For those of you who may or may not know me, I'm Jillian Grant. I have a new title now. I am the Director of Rodeo and Events for C5 Rodeo Company. So I'm very happy to be here. We are excited to be bringing back Oldstoberfest September 15th and 16th. This is the 6th time that the event will be taking place in the community of Olds. Oldstoberfest, we are the only place in the world that merges Bavarian culture with Western and rodeo culture anywhere else. So we're the world's only Bavarian rodeo. We're finally back on track after a little bit of a not one, but 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic, and 2022, we came back with a roaring success, had the biggest crowds, biggest attendance again that we'd ever had, great weather, and I think everybody was really excited to be out and about and missed it a little. So we are looking and hoping and believe we're one of the largest events in the region in central Alberta, and we aim to continue to make ourselves bigger and better. So here's just a fun, do you want me to open this?
So we just have to
Oh,
see.
sorry.
Nope, that's okay, it's all good.
We're gonna give you some fun viewing entertainment for your,
So we'll make it big.
yeah. And then I think we restart it. Do I just?
Yep, just hit it in the center.
I really love this footage. There's a lot more actually. Hopefully, you guys will get to see as the year goes on. I had a good friend of mine who does a lot of marketing and video production in the U.S. and I was lucky enough to have him up here. So as I was just sharing with Marcy, there's a really cool vintage truck coming in right by the town of Old sign, and you can hear the motor rev up, and it's really cool. So hopefully, I'll try and make sure that I can get that clip to you guys. It's very, very neat. So Old Oktoberfest, our why. Why do we do it? This community. The engagement and support that this community brings back with Old Oktoberfest, the very special relationships we've made and continue to grow with this event throughout the community, and obviously the reinvestment is our why. It's just this community has really embraced Old Oktoberfest, and it's just such a positive thing for us that we just want to continue to grow that, and it's very heart-lifting for us, and it's a big. It's not only something that we've seen grow from a monetary side, but we've also we've seen the culture grow in the community as well. So it's been a really positive piece why we continue to do it. And of course, it's our passion. C5 Rodeo Company, we do over 40 events North America wide in quite a few states, whether we're in Brighton, Florida. Actually, this past weekend, we were just in Red Bluff. Our crew's going to be heading to Clovis, California, and playing off our world-class rodeo stock. They actually won Red Bluff off of the Saddle Bronc and the Bareback on both our horses. So all the horse events were won on our stock. So we continue our outstanding breeding program, and throughout the world in North America, we are known for our rank bucking stock. So we love to be able to showcase them here in Olds, and of course the world-class competition piece. We love to be able to bring some of the top cowboys in the world right here in the dirt in the arena in Olds, and that's just what we love to do. So it's a great fit. So our goal is obviously to continue to the growth of the event to the full potential, maximize tourism, and increase community activation. To achieve this vision, we want to offer the community the largest, most entertaining pro rodeo, which we want to put Central Alberta on the world stage, event expansion opportunities within the community and area, identify potential partners to increase activity and attendance, whether that's tour groups, trade shows, and industry events, increase event production quality, larger musical acts, more diverse activities, and overall presence. Just going back to this past year in 2022, we paid over $62,000 in rodeo payout. We donated over $150,000 back to the local community, or contributed. We had over 900 pancakes sold. There were some pancake breakfasts. And those are our social media followers. And actually, C5 Rodeo, we're actually close to 19,000 followers. So that's changed in the past few months. And last year, record attendance. Again, we had over 8,500 in attendance. Saturday, we were at full capacity to a point where we had to maybe turn some folks away. So really great thing that we had in 2022. With 2023 initiatives to continue to engage all key organizations, Olds Regional Exhibition, Town of Olds, Olds College, Uptown Olds, Mountain View County, Travel Alberta, and local businesses and sponsors. We have been meeting with a lot of the key partners and organizations in the community this spring. We recently just signed a new MOA with the Olds Regional Exhibition for a multi-year deal, and we're continuing to collaborate them on what we can do to not also continue to grow our event, but how do we work together to improve and innovate infrastructure, build the layout so we can actually fill more people in, bigger capacity so that we can have bigger concerts, bigger names, and to be honest, I think in the next few years there's going to be entirely new look and feel for Oldstoberfest, of the way the event flows, in a good way. So we're really, really excited about that. We've been meeting with the college, and seeing how we can integrate with them a bit. I've also met Mrs. Jillian Toller from your guys' side. She's amazing. I'm so excited to see what she does in the community, and we've really enjoyed working with her. And we have had some very introductory conversations as well with Investold. So, and of course, Brent and his crew. So, we are very excited to see what we can do to collaborate with all these partners and bring them on board to see what we can do to just keep building this and making it bigger and better. Event expansion. So this year we're actually hoping to, well, we are going to be doing a Saturday, an authentic Bavarian beer gardens right in the old Cal Palace. It's going to start on noon on Saturday. So we're actually trying to bring a little bit more of the Oktoberfesty into the Bavarian rodeo side. So we are going to have that going on. Again, our event layout this year is going to be a little bit different of the flow. We're also looking to see how we can enhance spectator experience, sponsor experience, from a decor side. So just to build the experience and make it even cooler than it was. So really looking forward to that. Expanding our fan base. Again, with the Saturday Beer Hall, we're really trying to get more of the beer drinkers, the Oktoberfest fans, into the community and see where that leads us, and continue to, of course, work with the rodeo community and the ag community. Increased community activation. We're going to continue to work with you guys on the Bavarian Your Business. We had a really, really great turnout for the Uptown Olds activations that occurred last year, and they were very well received. And as well, there was some pancake breakfast that were new that the chamber did. So that was very, very good. And hopefully, as we just continue to push this information and push that Bavarian spirit, we can just see that organically keep occurring and expanding. And of course, promote and preserve our Western heritage. By continuing to engage and promote our agricultural industry. We really try to be still very involved with 4-H. I know last year and this year we're planning to purchase from 4-H a steer and donate to the local food bank. We donated to the local ORE Gymkhana Club, and of course engaged with the Olds College rodeo team. And again, continue to be engaged in the rodeo world as well to promote Olds. So those are our 2023 initiatives. How can businesses get involved? Lobby or window display, competition, of course, with your Bavarian Your Business, dressing the part, signage, social media, unique event promotions, theme menu items. These are what we pushed last year, and we saw some good feedback and how businesses engaged, and we're hoping that will continue to keep growing. This was something that I shared with you guys last year, but this is something that I've shared with Jillian and Sandra as well, as how we can collaborate with you guys through our channels. How do we elevate businesses and attractions and Olds through our website channels? Pendleton does a really great job along with some other great rodeos in the U.S. But I use this as an example of where do we send people to shop? Where do we send people to go eat? This is something that we're hoping to continue to work on with you guys. So how does the town of Olds support us? Collaboration on tourism strategy with economic development and C5 Rodeo, sponsorship tourism funding, in-kind support, community services, communication, promotion, social media, video content, community facilitators and economic development, and policing. So this is something that's kind of continued to roll on to year with you guys. Just kind of looking to continue what we were doing. There will be a sponsorship package coming forth to you guys from us, as we know the DOCF is no longer, so we'll be sharing that with you, and we will be asking for the gold sponsorship, which is just the same amount that we received from the DOCF. So thank you again. That's my presentation. We look forward to bringing our event back here in September, and just look forward to working with you guys all again. And I don't know if you guys saw, but we have a Tragically Hip cover band on the Friday night, and we have Tim and the Glory Boys on the Saturday. So I myself am actually very excited about the Friday, but I think it's going to be a hoot. So hopefully you guys can join us, and prost.
Thank you, Jillian. Did you say what the figures were for the attendee last year?
We had over 8,500 in attendance, and that's the rodeo and the beer garden combined each day.
How did you do with enhanced policing? How many did we have, or do you recall?
I apologize because I was on maternity leave during that time, but no, it's okay. I believe there's usually 2 or 3 officers. We have a fellow named Cam who's been with us from the get-go. He's also a former peace officer. He's been a guard he's amazing, and we've worked with the policing, and I don't believe there was any big issues, and it sounded like everything went well, so.
It was a lovely time. I will open the floor to the council. I see Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, through you to Jillian. Thank you very much for your presentation. Great as always. Do you have any idea, I know you were on maternity leave last year, but do you have any idea how many volunteers you ended up getting last year? And how many, maybe even if not that, but maybe how many groups?
Yeah, I would say we definitely had over 10 groups. I would say 3 or 4 for sure sports organizations just in the college clubs alone. What I do know is we serve as the largest fundraiser for many of these volunteer groups. I know that so we had the cadets, we had I believe the Rotary was involved. The Kiwanis obviously has a concession there, so we work with gymnastics, figure skating. The 4-H get so the college donates the program, so the 4-H gets all of the money that's raised from the programs, and we get program prizes donated for incentive. We have a lot of the local college teams. I would say if there's a volunteer organization for the most part in this community, it's their volunteering at Old Oktoberfest for sure.
We have Deputy Mayor Dale, and then we'll go over to Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Thank you, Jillian, for the presentation. Very good. You mentioned in your slide that 150,000 was donated to the community, and you touched on it a little bit in your previous answer, but could you just explain to us how and who these funds are distributed to, and if there's a percentage that goes here and goes there or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's not, I'm gonna, so donated, I would say invest into the community. So that's not only the volunteer groups, the facility rental, there's also the sponsorships that we give to the community, but that's also anything that we are pretty much, that we are able to buy in the town of Olds for the event to put on, whether it's materials that we need to pick up at Home Hardware, liquor that's purchased at Co-op, anything that we need to get for the event, we are doing that, we are purchasing that in the community of Olds. So investing would be better than that word, so, yeah.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and thanks, Julian, for the presentation. I just have a question. Do we, and maybe a supplement, but do we have any idea what the reach of the attendees is for the event? You mentioned 8,500 spectators. Are they mostly local, or are they coming from Cody, Wyoming, and Bozeman, or do we know?
Yeah, so I would say that 80% is definitely from central Alberta. We are getting phone calls from tour groups in Europe, so we do have European visitors, we do have Saskatchewan, BC, but I would say 80% is central Alberta. And then I would say 10% is the rest of Alberta, and then the other 10 would be international or interprovincial.
Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Yes, thanks for that reply, Julian. Yeah, I look forward to the day when we have a couple of Globus vehicles rolling up and down the streets during Old Oktoberfest. And perhaps a question for the CAO. You talk about the 150,000 invested into the community or through purchasing and so on. Does the town have any idea what the kind of overall economic benefit would be from this event hotels, restaurants?
No, it's not something we tracked in the same way that like Pinty's rodeo or Pinty's curling was tracked with the impact study. So not at this time.
I think that's something that we would love to see if there's an opportunity to do an economic impact study. One of the really cool things is Alex from Grouchy Daddies messaged me and said we had the record sales in the history of Grouchy Daddies on the Saturday night at Oldstoberfest. And I know a lot of businesses really appreciated it when I've gone around and talked to them how good it was. So I think that's something that's very, very cool. Yes, we are having locals that are coming, but the hotels are sold out. People are going out about, this is kind of the night where they come out to Old, so very cool.
Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, through you to Ms. Grant. So going back to your comment then about, like, you mentioned Grouchy Daddies. So then do you work through the Chamber of Commerce to give a heads up to some of these restaurants, hotels, even our local retail stores? The event is coming. I know it's fairly well advertised, but you can't always catch everyone in the catchment area, just to give them a heads up so that they are somewhat prepared for what they could be a great increase, in foot traffic in all businesses.
So, to be honest, I think last year was the most traction that we had with the Chamber of Commerce, and that was mostly due to Gary Gaudette's help with that, which was amazing. I personally haven't had too much traction with them in years prior, but I think that's a really good suggestion that we could try and see if that there's a presentation that we can try again for to see if that's something to get some more collaboration. I know we did do a presentation for Uptown Olds, and as you guys saw, it was very well received.
Yes, thank you very much. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Your Worship. Jillian, first of all, my family and I have been to every single one of the Oktoberfest rodeos. We love the rodeo. We brought people from Nova Scotia, Ontario, and BC to come with us as well. So we're big fans of it. I mean, our local business decorates as much as we can for it as well, and
Awesome.
huge proponents of it. Now, you did touch on one thing, though, that I wanted to mention and inquire about. 8,500 people. We were full on Saturday. You had to turn people away at the door at the back. There
Yeah.
was a little bit of a problem with that, where pre-purchase ticket purchasers couldn't enter the event. I know that was brought up to the company itself a few times by some of those folks, because we know people who were stuck in that situation, including some of our staff at the time.
Please put your mic closer to your mouth, maybe move it up.
Okie dokie. Is that an issue that C5 is working to correct this year so that doesn't happen again?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I had said is that we're working on a completely new site map, is how do we get more capacity so that's not an issue, because as you see the layout, there's a lot more acres in the infield that we can work with. So we're looking to see how do we expand, how do we double even just the concert capacity, and turn this more into a festival. When you think of the Calgary Stampede and you're there and maybe you're at the rodeo, or maybe you're at this tent, or maybe you're checking something out over here, how do we make, and that's why we're also working on the beer garden piece, or the beer hall piece on the Saturday. How do we try and give different options for folks so that there's other things going on, and then so you might not necessarily have to just be in the grandstand. How do we spread this activation out within the infield from an Oldstoberfest perspective, so we aren't having to turn people away? As you know, I was on maternity leave, but we'd never had that issue before, and obviously being on a 2-year hiatus, it was something I think that, it's a good and bad problem to have, right? So hopefully with this year, we know that we're going to have some more space, whether if that's expanding it by the infield tents and having a screen, doing a little beer garden piece there, where the stage is going to be for the concert. Old Faithful may not be in commission anymore, actually. So we're actually looking at what the new stage is this week of what that looks like. So that's probably not going to be an issue. In terms of the beer garden piece, the capacity is what it is. So in our disclaimers, we're going to be making sure that when you buy your rodeo or your event ticket, you get in there, but it's going to be a first come, first serve. That doesn't necessarily, so if you want to get in there, get in there early kind of thing, just because it is what it is. But like I said, as we grow it, hopefully maybe the beer garden piece, maybe it moves, maybe it's a bigger tent, who knows what it is. But I think as we continue to grow, we're working on that, absolutely. And like I mentioned, spectator sponsorship experience, we need to improve that if we want to continue to grow, because then eventually we'll lose interest if we don't do that. So absolutely, 100%.
Good. Thank you very much for your presentation. It looks like Councillor Wilson has one more question.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, for that latitude. Just a quick question for Julian. I'm just wondering, how's this event perceived amongst the cowboys and cowgirls? Is this becoming, or is it a must-do event now at the end of the rodeo season, just before you get to CFR and NFR and everything?
So this is something, actually, two things I want to share with you guys. One thing, when I talk about Pendleton, and I showed you guys that picture of Pendleton, I really would love to see Old Oktoberfest be like Pendleton. It's a community of 12,000 people. They have over 100,000 visitors come into their community in a week. And actually their rodeo grounds is very similar size to what we have here. So, and just so you guys know, C5 Rodeo Company, we're not the same company that we started out as in 2015 when we first got here. We're a very different community. We have a lot of different resources and connections and events that we're working with on a grander scale where we've seen this happen. I love to use Whitefish as an example, and they're a group that we work with. It's a festival called Under the Big Sky. Their first year was 2019. 2023, they sold out 25,000 tickets in 5 minutes. So these are the kind of folks that we have as a resource to work with, and that's something, I know we need to walk before we run, but we really do see that this can really take off and be a huge thing. Hopefully there's no more pandemics and other crazy things coming our way, so we can kind of keep on track. And we do have some cool infrastructure coming our way. Number two, there was a photographer, she goes to Pendleton every year, and she wrote a post actually and said, I will put this rodeo up against Pendleton's. I had just as much or more fun at the Old Oktoberfest Pro Rodeo. Everybody just has a smile on your face. You see the cowboys getting on the fjord. It's good watching. It's not like any other rodeo. We really want to be one of those bucket list rodeos. As I mentioned, I think maybe in last year's, in 2020, the Cowboy Channel, which has a viewership of over 53 million households in North America, did a whole piece on Old Oktoberfest with us. And the Cowboy Channel actually just bought out Flow Rodeo, which has the rights to the CPRA rodeos in Canada. So there's some other broadcast pieces that are coming in the rodeo world in Canada that's very exciting to tie this into, because people in the rodeo world watch, I don't know if any of you here watch Cowboy Channel, but they watch it very religiously, and so there's some really cool opportunities, I think, from a tourism perspective in the rodeo side of it. But I think we for sure are a bucket list rodeo. Every time we tell people about it, I need to come see this. So I think as long as we can just keep on what we're doing, I think it's going to be really excited 10 years down the road of what we become.
Just one last question, Pendleton. Where is their rodeo, are there rodeo grounds located in the middle of their community like we are?
They are in the community, yep. Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
Well, I don't think we have any more questions, and I'm sure you've got more to do, and thank you very much for presenting to us today.
Yes, thanks so much,
And
guys.
we'll look forward to talking to you in the future.
All right, thank you.
Did you say you had something? No? Okay. All right, at this time then, I'd ask for a motion, please, to accept the report for information. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council accept the Old Oktoberfest verbal update as provided for information, and thank Jillian Grant again for her presentation.
Thank you. We have the motion on the floor. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Unanimously, that's carried. All right, we'll move down to page 25 of our agenda, item 6A. This is a bylaw 2023 tax rate bylaw. And again, we're looking for second and third reading, and I'll just hand this over then to our Director of Finance.
Thank you, and I think you said it all. We're just looking for a second and third reading today. Nothing has changed since first reading was amended, and I would just open if there's any questions from council, we can take those.
You, Director Linderman, I'll open the floor to council at this time then, prior to asking for second reading. Looks like we have no questions. You've done your job well. I will ask for second reading, please. Councillor Cummings?
Just before, is this new one that we have here is already amended, so I don't have to make the amendments need motion?
Correct.
Okay, sorry, that I move that did not make that come out of my mouth properly. I'll move that tax rate bylaw 2023-13 is given second reading.
Thank you. I see no questions at this time, so I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. And third and final reading, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the tax rate bylaw 2023-13 is given third and final reading.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. We have third reading. Thank you. And now thank you, Director Linderman, as well. And we will move down to item 6B at this time now. And that is going to be on page 31 of your agenda. The bylaw 2023 land use bylaw amendment. And this is introduction and consideration for first reading. Who's speaking to that?
Kyle Sloan is back with us, our municipal planner. Come on, Kyle.
Thank you. This land use bylaw amendment is for the rezoning of a parcel on the southeast side of town along Highway 2A. It's currently zoned urban reserve, and the property owner has applied to rezone it to industrial business district, which is a district that aligns with both the municipal development plan and the Southeast Industrial ASP. Both of which have it as industrial in their future land use concepts. This application, the applicant or the owner has applied for this in order to develop an RV storage yard at the property, and that will come at a later time in the development permit process. RV storage yards are a discretionary use in the industrial business district, so that application would come to council for approval later. If there are any questions about this at this time for first reading, be happy to answer.
Thank you for sharing that, and we'll start with Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kyle, I do see in the background section of the request for decision that this property was already designated as a future industrial land in the municipal development plan and the structure plan. I'm wondering, is it possible to, in those plans, when we have this type of situation in the future, have this process automated through administration rather than come to council, where we can say in the land use bylaw where this is already planned to be done, that, and the land use bylaw is already approved by council, do we then need to have, again, another discussion by council when this process is triggered, rather than just have it automated through the land use bylaw to just happen when it does happen? Do you understand my question? Good, because I had a hard time understanding.
Thank you. Yes, that can potentially happen, and in other cases has happened where we have rezoned, larger swaths of many parcels at a time with the town as, I guess, the leader, the applicant for such an amendment. That happened just to the north of this with the rest of the southeast industrial area, where multiple parcels were rezoned to light industrial. It happened in around Uptown Olds, like just to the west of Main Street of 50th Avenue. There's a lot of residential units that are zone C1, and that happened with the Uptown Olds area redevelopment plan when it was created. So there are instances where we do, as administration, as the town, rezone land. We don't always wait for the property owners to come and do it one by one, but in this case, this was still urban reserve. I think possibly because it was maybe in the county when we did the southeast industrial area, so it wasn't in town yet. So, and generally when we annex areas from the county, we designate those whole areas as urban reserve. So this wasn't in town when we did the industrial rezoning.
Thank you.
Very good explanation. This has been a hoppin' property for years and years and years. Thank you. Any further questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor Daley.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Thanks for the presentation, Mr. Sloan. It piqued my interest when I seen this photograph, and I don't know how accurate this photograph is, but as you said, the urban reserve designation on this land, and then there's a block that's going to be taken out and put in as light industrial. How is that going to fit into future plans that we have as far as an area structural plan for this quarter section? Is this going to interfere with maybe the development of streets, utilities, those types of things going on? And was that taken into consideration when this was drawn up?
Thank you. Yes, so the remainder of the quarter section, which is outside the yellow marker here, in the area redevelopment plan, when we created that plan, the road alignment wasn't designed. It was left to be flexible for depending on how development came in. So the road network for this quarter section has not yet been set, but is intended to be designed as development occurs. With this application and the development that the owner is looking to do on it, they're not looking to redevelop the parcel with anything too intensive. Like say, it's RV storage. So they're using the existing driveway with access to 2A. And they have had preliminary conversations with Alberta Transportation, as we will as well when we're working on the development permit, to make sure that Alberta Transportation is okay with this driveway being in continued use. When roads start to develop in the area, and this property perhaps redevelops again into a more permanent industrial use, we might look to have the access be to the west to the roads that are not yet there. But that's, I think the area structure plan was developed to leave that flexibility in so that we could accommodate different sizes, different scales of development in the future.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you again, Mayor Dahl. So after saying that then, Mr. Sloan, is there any way that we can put into the approval of this plan something for the future of development of roads and utilities within this area, that this is not going to be a hindrance to us when we go to develop the rest of the quarter? We say that you've discussed it, but I always say good paper makes good friends. So I'm just wondering, I don't want to be caught into a predicament as we have in the past in some of these decisions that hinders us going forward and ends up costing the citizens of Olds.
Thank you. We can look at what type of condition and how that might be worded. Now, if this is redeveloped as an RV storage yard, or if it's not redeveloped at all, yes, we can say that the use can't negatively impact, neighboring parcels of land, but we can't necessarily tell them how to design, especially if they're not changing anything in their property itself. We can't necessarily tell them that they have to change things as far as the access and road goes at this point.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. I understand your questions. This is just to give it first reading to move it forward for a public hearing, so we do have plenty of time to continue to work on questions. Thank you very much. So I would ask for first reading at this time, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council gives first reading to bylaw number 2023-14 and
Thank you very much. And we will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Very good. Now we need to set a date for public hearing. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council sets Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023, at 1 p.m. in the council chambers as the date, time, and place for a public hearing on bylaw number 2023-14.
Thank you. Right after a statutory holiday, so it is a Tuesday. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Kyle. Please move now to, we are now down to special council meeting, page 36 of your agenda. And we are looking, it's straightforward. I'll look for a motion, please. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you. I move that council call a special closed council meeting for Wednesday, April 26, 2023 at 9 a.m. to discuss service level delivery.
Thank you. Does council have any questions prior to the vote? Hearing none, then I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, page 37 now, Mountain View Regional Waste Management Commission. This is the service contract, and would you like to speak to this? Thank you, CEO Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. As council was briefed previously, a few weeks ago, Mountain View Regional Waste Commission has decided to withdraw from the recycling services business it currently operates on behalf of the town of Olds and its other municipal members. This is going to be effective July of 2023, and it will affect the two recycling centers in Olds, where the commission will no longer pick up from those facilities, the tracks and the co-op respectively. It's still too early, of course, to determine what will happen with those two facilities, but that's what the service level conversation will be about. But for right now, until that discussion takes place, the commission has made its decision, and the recommendation is that council direct the mayor and CEO to sign that amended agreement, which is attached in your package.
You, CEO Williams, are there any questions at this time? I would ask for a motion, please. Deputy Mayor Daley.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And I have a question and something to keep in mind. And we've discussed this before. If we take these two facilities out of line or offline, you know, there is a quite amount of recycling that gets deposited into these bins. Are you saying that we're still looking that there may be some sort of solution downline? Because people do depend on these stations for getting rid of excess amounts of cardboard, plastics, and so forth. And so just wondering whether we're going to just like stop altogether, and if there is any plan going forward for something alternate to take the place of that and take the burden off the citizens.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Daley. As I mentioned, the status quo exists until the end of July of this year. Then, without any change or assumption by the town of those two facilities, the options will be the Rollo Blue Bins that residents have, or the Didsbury landfill, which is roughly 15 to 20 kilometers south of us. At service level review, starting on Wednesday, council will be presented with a few options on that, on those two facilities, and I think I don't want to preempt that discussion. So,
Thank you. Good question and fair answer. So we have a motion from Deputy Mayor Daley on the floor. No, he's going to make it.
I didn't make it, actually. I can't.
Well, you did let your name stand for it because I've got it written down, so go ahead.
Thank you. I move that council direct mayor and CEO to sign the revised waste service agreement between the Mount View Regional Waste Management Commission and the town of Olds.
Thank you very much. I will call for the motion that's on the floor for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. I would ask you now to please turn to page 54 of your agenda. Okay. All right, this is Olds Fiber Limited Director appointments, and as shareholders, the shareholder made two Are we okay? Good over here? All right. Sorry? I'll move forward then? Good? Thank you. All right, page 54 of your agenda once again. Just a little bit of background. The shareholder made two appointments, however, did not rescind any current appointments and must do so to remain in compliance of the Olds Fiber Limited bylaw. I would like to note, and prior to me making any further notes, did you have a preamble, or would you like me to forward?
I guess just to note of clarification, it's not included in the RFD, mostly for the public watching, that the three elected officials that remain on the board are Councillor Wilson, Councillor Ryan, and Councillor Cummings. So with these two rescindments, May 1st and September 1st respectively, there's still one more councillor left to come off, which we are expecting by October 1st to be that date.
Thank you very much. So we have today still three directors, as stated by our CEO, Director Cummings, Ryan, and Wilson. Background, a little bit of the background is that Director Wilson has been the chair since 2021, and I will ask, prior to starting, if Director Wilson plans on letting his name stand as, will your name, as a, sorry, as a chair?
I agree to continue to stand as chair of the OFL board.
So before we move forward with any further decisions, I would ask council then, would you accept the fact that Councillor Wilson's letting his name stand? Or would you prefer that we move forward with three directors for vote? Am I confusing?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's, sorry, we need to remove two members, correct? You just asked if we wanted to keep three, so I'm confused. You've asked us to do two different things that are opposite of each other.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, so Councillor Wilson will remain chair, which means that we have Director Cummings and Director Ryan. So we will go to the first rescinding appointment. I'm getting looked at funny.
Can I make it a little easier for
Yes.
us all? Sure. I'll happily have my name put into the first motion to rescind my position as the director.
That was where I was moving forward to with this, so you're looking good for May 1st then? That's exactly where I was trying to go, so you made it much easier. All right, so could I have a motion, please, then, for to rescind Director Cummings? Well, I've got hands now. Councillor Wilson, move forward.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would make the motion that council rescind the appointment of James Cummings from the OFL Board of Directors effective May 1, 2023.
Thank you. It was just surprising to me, and thank you very much for putting your name forward for this first appointment. Are there any further questions? I'll then call for the vote for the appointment, rescinding of the appointment. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously, which leaves a motion for the second. I'd like a motion for the second rescindment, or for Councillor Ryan, for September 1st. Okay, Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council rescinds the appointment of Heather Ryan from the OFL Board of Directors effective September 1st, 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Council. We will now move forward on our agenda to page 55. And this is a development permit. CO Williams, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Today I'm going to invite Sherry Edgington up with us, our development officer, to speak to this application. Is that correct? Okay. No.
Welcome, Sherry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Councilman and CAO Williams and Director Lindeman. Have an application here that we received for the placement of another manufactured home in the 5103 64th Avenue mobile home park known as Old Mobile Home Park. In the R4 land use district, mobile homes are a permitted use. This application is requesting that a variance be granted to them to allow the positioning of this manufactured home. Their minimum setback requirement for the front yard setback is 3 meters, and they are proposing 0.3 meters or 1 foot. And then the rear yard boundary setback is a minimum of 8 meters as per our land use bylaw, and they are proposing 1.2 meters, 4 feet. These are some substantial variances to the requirements of the land use bylaw. However, this park was approved in August of 1975 as manufactured homes were quite smaller and quite different at that time. And it has presented previous applications in regards to setbacks similar to this, and they have been approved at this manufactured home park.
Thank you very much for bringing that information for us. We have Councillor Cummings with a question.
Thank you, and nice to meet you. You were absolutely right. As part of MPC since this last term, these specific issues have been brought up over and over again from multiple mobile home parks, that the 2023 built manufactured homes are much larger than those of 1975. And this is going to continue to happen every time a new home gets put into these facilities as they get older and older and older and older. I would recommend, however, that instead of dealing with this ad hocly or piecemealish, that we adjust the bylaw. 2007-29, I mean, it's a pretty old bylaw to begin with, to amend these setbacks to the reality of the manufactured home business. Manufactured homes simply aren't made small enough anymore to fit in these designated lots. So if we're going to have to come up with some idea to do this systemically rather than every time a new home gets put in, it comes to council. So I would rather, obviously I'll support this amendment today so that we can get this home moved in, but I would also like to see administration come back with a more systemic solution to this. And I do have a motion that I've drafted to that effect that I'd like to put forward now in addition to the motion that we're going to be dealing with earlier. So,
Prior to that, CEO Williams would like to speak.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and to Councillor Cummings, a comment. So this was, I did a similar comment maybe a month or two ago. This is really only the second development permit the council has considered since the change from MPC being dissolved. So the intention in 2023 is to hear this type of feedback and kind of for council to ask themselves two questions. That, is this the type of decision council wants to see, or is it comfortable vesting that authority more with administration? And second off, to this point, is are there opportunities for efficiencies, red tape reduction, or just other things to make life easier on everyone? So I think that's one of those cases. Of course, still welcome to make that motion. Just to note that we are collecting these instances, keeping kind of a registry of what's coming to council and what we think can be improved on that. So it's totally up to council's discretion, though.
Thank you for that update, sharing CEO Williams. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. And given that you are looking into it, CEO Williams, would you prefer to have a motion now, or would you like to do that review and then, or tabulation of information before we do a motion, put a motion on the floor? I know that this has been discussed before at previous council, so it's not something new that I haven't heard of. But it just needs to be something that has to be addressed. Yep.
If council feels that this particular one is best to expedite, then I'm happy to take a motion. We can bring something back in terms of LUB amendment in the near future. If it's, deemed important enough, that's no preference on my behalf.
Okay, thank you very much, CEO Williams, because I certainly would like to get this red tape out of the way.
Councillor Blatz, and then back to Councillor Cummings. I think he wants to speak.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to CEO Williams. Well, if you're reviewing the whole process rather than bog you down with administrative work now, would it be a better process just to tabulate, as you've already indicated, these types of changes and bring forward one massive change all at once? I'm just trying, I realize that we do want to reduce red tape, and I totally concur with both the comments of Councillor Cummings and Councillor Ryan, but if we see these things and tabulate for perhaps 6 months, 8 months, a year, then we can do one complete change of the bylaw, and I think that would be a little bit more efficient for your staff time.
Yeah, and fair point. I think either option is okay with us. With, I guess, the potential risk with that, if another variance application for the Olds Mobile Home Park comes in, then we're doing the same work again, but you can't predict anything. So it's really at council's discretion, and Sherry loves doing extra work, so it's just fantastic.
Back to Councillor Cummings. Did you have another point?
Yes. So thank you. So what I'd like to do then is I'll put the motion for the table. Council can vote on it one way or the other, whether they think it's too much work or it can be held later, and then by that decision, administration will know what to do. So I have written it down, Marcy. I'll give you a copy of it there. So I move that administration, and this is kind of I'll start again, kind of a non-specific motion, so we'll see how it works. Move that administration provide reviewed and updated bylaws which refer to or apply to manufactured homes to council, specifically addressing the reality of modern manufactured home design. Thank you. The rationalization for keeping it vague like this is I am unaware of any other bylaws other than the land use bylaw that might be affected by manufactured homes. So I'm leaving it completely up to you guys to say which bylaws and policies and procedures need to be addressed in this situation. You're aware of the situation and what the problem is and the systemic issue that needs to be fixed. So I think as vague as that is, it's probably the best way to word it.
The CEO Williams.
Yeah, I can live with that.
So we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Cummings. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Oh, yes, we.
Can I have another question to go along with the motion?
Oh, that's correct. Do you have a question now? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and to Sherry. So looking at the photograph again, of course, you can see to the left there has been a larger mobile home that has been already installed in the park. And I'm thinking that this new application is probably going to be very similar, situated on the lot as that first unit that we see there. Have we talked to Protective Services at all as far as these easements and the lack of them, if there's ever a case of an emergency that might happen in that park? And is it something that we need to, with the comments that Councillor Cummings has made, is it something that we need to address with the owner of the park as far as maybe they need to start looking at a restructuring plan for their parks as well? Just for my own curiosity.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. With this application, We did speak with Protective Services. They realize and understand that it's an older park. They are in favor of the setbacks of the front and rear or the park boundary setbacks. We can talk with the property owner of the mobile park. There is a new mobile park owner. He seems receptive to our comments and stuff like that, and we can carry those comments forward.
Okay, now before we go in, go ahead, a question, Councillor Ryan?
Not a question, I was just going to put the motion on the floor.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. I move the council approve development permit application 23-028 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you. The motion is on the floor. Seeing no more questions, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we're moving down to reports. Item 8, that's page 62 of your agenda. What I'll do is I'll ask for a motion to get on the floor, and then we can go ahead and give our reports from there. And then we can discuss it. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the reports from council, authorities, boards, committees, and commissions ending April 24th, 2023 be received for information.
Thank you very much. Attached in the agenda were Councillor Blatz, Ryan, and Wilson. I will go ahead with my report, but we also will be looking for reports from Cummings, Walsh, and Daly. So either one of you three like to go first? Councillor Walsh?
No extracurricular activities during the past month. I've attended all regular council meetings, and short and sweet.
I have a question for you, though. Being you were on the governance board, can you just explain, because I did hear when we were at our past caucus that you were no longer on that?
Yeah, I'm no longer on the municipal, well, it's not called AUMA anymore. They choose people every year. Every year you got to reapply, and they had an excessive number of applications this year, so some of us didn't make it back.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to update that with all council. Very good. Do you have additions to yours, Councillor Daly? I see yours came in the same time as mine.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I did send mine in late, and Marcy did send it out afterwards. And if there's any questions or anything on my report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, thank you for emailing those out. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I already have one real interesting issue that came up, and that's with the Mountain View Regional Waste Commission, Regional Waste Management Commission. And that was some interesting statistics that came out today in our meeting. Since 2013, the commission has been reinvesting some of our money into some new technologies at the site. I just want to go over this one number that we track, and that's the compaction ratio, so the amount of garbage that we fit into a cubic meter of space, and by the ton. So in 2023 to 2026, the average was 0.3, so 1/3 of a ton per square meter, basically. We purchased some new, which would take the life cycle of the current airspace to 2032. 2032 is not all that far away, but at 2023, we would now be sitting here trying to figure out a solution to that by creating or applying for more airspace. So we've purchased some new equipment in 2016, which increased our compaction ratio by doubling it. From 2017 to 2019, the average was 0.6 tons per cubic meter, which would extend our life cycle by an extra 6 years to 2038. Between 2020 and now, where we've purchased a new compressor, a new shredding machines and such, as well as some software to help process where that space has gone to, we've taken it to 0.8 tons per cubic meter, with a high in 2022 of 0.9 tons per cubic meter, which extends the life cycle to 2047. So now we're looking at a 15-year expansion of our landfill's current airspace just by adding some new technology, even though we're putting the exact same amount of garbage into the space every year. We've also, administration provided us with their target goal of 1.1 tons per cubic meter, which would extend the life cycle of the current airspace to 2052. So the addition, now this, of course, investment is a few $1 million. It wasn't a few dollars here and there, but about $6 million worth of investment over that time period to extend that life cycle that much saves our community a tremendous amount of money from having to expand the site of the landfill again into another section. I don't know if we've all, I'm sure, been to the landfill. The farm fields in the forward part of the section are owned by the landfill, but are not licensed to be a landfill. And that process can take up to 10 years. So the back half is, and that'll be used up by 2052. So some significant numbers presented by the commission today on the life cycle and change some technology. And that's 20 years expansion of the time frame just by adding some technology. And they're going to continue that with some new technology ideas that they've got, which will increase that compaction rate beyond the 1.1. So I thought that would be interesting for everybody to have a little bit of share with. And as usual, those minutes, I've passed the minutes off to Marcy, so she'll have all that stuff available for the next agenda package.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Okay, and I'll just, again, my report has been emailed to you, but I do want to touch on a couple things here. And one is the President's Summit on the Future of Municipal Government and Municipal Leaders Caucus. So one of the topics at caucus was the lack of consultation between Alberta Health Services, the provincial government and municipalities presented by the town of Ponoka. The Town of Olds administration recommendation to council is to support the town of Ponoka to address the significant lack of consultation between Alberta Health Services, the provincial government and municipalities, and that they had handed this out to us at caucus. We were privy to that. I just want to let you know that this correspondence with the town, this corresponds with the Town of Olds goals, and the town of Ponoka central mayors have been discussing things like since caucus, and there'll be some more information coming in the near future. And for municipal area partnerships, I did send the minutes. I'm sorry they didn't make it into the package, but will reflect electronically. Just to let you know, Chris Ulmer of Urban Systems made a presentation on housing needs studies and discussed potential options for regional approaches. He shared how to differentiate between a study of interest to municipalities versus a seniors housing organization. I look forward to having the minutes in the very near future to be able to share with that with you, Councillor Ryan. And MAP has agreed to initiate key messages to keep council members informed prior to approved minutes. And I was hoping to have those for you today. However, speaking, they didn't quite get them completed. So I'm looking forward to that. And I would like to highlight one other note, that there was a presentation to Linda Ford. She's a local author, and she's published over her 100th book and hit the bestseller list writing historical romance books. And she was featured in the paper last week, and it's quite an honor to be able to have that. As well as CAO Williams and his communication has provided me with the first Mayor Minute radio spot. That was on budget, and I've presented that on behalf of council, and there'll be several more coming, so we'll keep you posted. Thank you very much. So we have a motion. Yes, Councillor Wilson, sorry.
Could I just add an item or two to my written report?
Absolutely.
Thank you. These came in, I represent the chamber on behalf of council. We had our monthly board meeting after the submission of my report. Just one or two items. One is for information. On May 10th, the chamber, in conjunction with the local newspaper and the radio station, are looking to hold a provincial electoral forum. So the details are still being finalized in terms of participating parties, but notionally the date I think is sent for May 10th. So look for information coming out in the local media and so on. And at a previous council meeting, we had talked about various events in town and the need and importance of letting local business know. That item came up again today through Councillor Blatz relative to Oldstoberfest. I did put that on the table for a brief discussion with the chamber at our April meeting. There certainly is keen interest amongst the chamber, amongst the board, as far as a vehicle to let individuals know. It was mentioned, whether it be some of the sporting events at Sportsplex or others, that the town, you can certainly notice a buzz in the town and activity in the town when some of those groups are hosting events, which is all a positive. It was suggested, obviously leveraging the community events calendar on the town website, and through that, we have, I think, an individual doing bookings for both the Sportsplex and the Rotary Fields. And so whether that individual doing the bookings for those recreation facilities can then follow that through to get something on the community events calendar, and then the chamber would then step in and peruse that calendar on a regular basis, and the chamber sends out both a newsletter on a regular basis as well as an email blast. So at least for sporting events at both the Sportsplex and the Rotary Fields, if the booking person could get that to the calendar, and then the chamber could then follow up and blast that out to their members through their media, that would certainly help as far as the notification. And just talk in general about, events at the CLC, needing to plug those people in to somehow get events at the CLC or the ORE, get those onto the community events calendar as well. Because again, once they hit there, the chamber can certainly review those and send out information to its members.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And further to that, too, and this might lead into Councillor Wilson's comments as well. I know that for those people that have ONET as a TV platform, there's also the community channel on there. So I don't know what the process is to get your events on that, but I think that's also another tool that could be utilized.
Final comment, Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, I can comment on it, because I added an event for myself on the calendar, and you can pick and choose to not only get onto the calendar, but also onto, I believe, the ONET TV and also onto the electronic sign. So you have a choice when you are entering into the calendar. I will defer, though, to the expert on the topic, the CAO, for any further clarification.
It's your move.
Well, the ONET TV platform aside, which I'm not entirely sure how to get on that community channel, to your previous comment about the events calendar. So events, tournaments, et cetera, that come through internal bookings, Rotary or Sportsplex, for instance, they have been updated onto our events calendar regularly, including the U13 provincials that took place last month, or earlier this month. The issue remains, how do we coordinate in a time-sensitive manner with the CLC and with groups outside of our control, or facilities outside of our purview, and that's always going to be a bit hit miss, I think, but it's something we're trying to actively do, because that sports tourism piece is important, and the chamber can play a good role if they have that one-stop shop to find that information. So it's something we are aware of and working on.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Ryan and then Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would like to add to my report, because I did attend the meeting that Councillor Cummings was talking about this morning, that was the Waste Commission. And what he didn't mention earlier was the AGM this morning, and the audit was presented, and it was a clean audit and very well presented. And I thought, it was good information, and hopefully that'll be posted for people to be able to read.
Sir Cummings?
Thanks. So, the AGM was this morning as well. I did send the legislative clerk the link to the site for the landfill, so that they can get all that information. It's not posted yet, of course. It'll be it's normally a month or two behind, so it'll be there. But I do have a question real quick here. So, you had mentioned, Mayor, the Mayor's Minute radio broadcast. Cool and interesting. First time I've heard about it. Is there going to be a link to that on our town website so I can listen to the mayor's minute when I don't necessarily have time to listen to the radio?
Thank you, very good question, and I'll divert that to our CAO for his communication department.
I think that is easily doable, yes.
Not sure exactly what times they put it on, it's just read on behalf of council, and I think there's about, 11 more to go, so that's a good question, and we'll get that answer. Final, Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, Mayor Dolan. Just further to that, and just an idea popped into my head about just doing a video of that minute that we could put on Facebook. It's fairly easy just to do that.
That sounds fun. Okay. It would be hard to show myself on the picture while I'm recording. Thank you, but
Somebody else would record it for you.
We'll figure it out, for sure. That absolutely, for sure. We have a motion on the floor right now from Councillor Wilson to accept the reports. I will ask for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Carried unanimously. Now, page 90, we have the Chief Administrator Officer report. I'll turn this back over to C.O. Williams.
Thank you again, Mayor Dahl. In addition to the action items list that is in your package, fairly straightforward there, the 2 items will be brought back in May, not Ma PNP, as the spelling error suggests. RCMP, retroactive pay, that is in correspondence. So this will be, in fact, the upcoming Mayor's Minute topic, just to provide a bit more context, but it's something everyone's been dealing with at the local government level in Canada since 2021. The 2023 federal budget finally provided clarity, and it wasn't the clarity we were hoping for. That, in fact, the town is responsible for retroactive pay dating back to 2017 for its RCMP detachment complement. That amount is $270,000. The invoice has been received already, with the caveat that you still have to pay. But depending on what your agreement says and how that agreement is interpreted, there is an option to bridge that payment over what could be 2 years. I think 2 years is probably a long estimate based on our contract, but we're working with the appropriate federal department right now to figure that out. So we do have to pay that amount, but given that there's no penalty or interest or likewise to extend that payment, to extend that payment past its 30-day due date, we'll take advantage of any opportunity we can to keep that money with us as long as possible. Second and last item, more appealing news. Council was updated last week, and the mayor and myself and MLA Nathan Cooper officially announced on behalf of SRD, our wastewater commission, that the town of Olds via SRD was successful for a $6.8 million grant to fund the Olds lift station surge pond. What that is, for those watching, is that when the lift station has reached capacity and can no longer send wastewater up the line, Bowden is the next stop, instead of diverting into the overland onto farm fields or into ditches, municipal road allowances, it will be diverted into a surge pond. This was planned since 2012 in the original build of the regional waste line, but never got completed for budgetary reasons at the time. So it's excellent that the province saw the need of this, given the infiltration events we experienced last June and into July. And we will be working with SRD, with them leading it, of course. They are the experts, to find a place for this surge pond to go permanently, and it's a big win for the town of Olds infrastructure. So that's all I had for now. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for sharing that. I know there's more upcoming in our correspondence and information with regards to some correspondence that you just spoke to, so Other than that, if there's no further questions for you right now, I'd ask for a motion to accept for information. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the correspondence and information report ending April 24th, pardon me, I'm ahead of myself. I apologize. I move that the Chief Administrative Officer report be accepted for information.
Thank you very much. No, hey, you know what? It's one of those days. It feels very different to me, too. It's the air, the change of the weather. Very good. No further questions, then I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, C.A. Williams. All right, we will then go down to page 92. I'll get a motion to put this on the floor for discussion as well. If there's any discussion, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'll do the motion that Councillor Blatz has started, that the correspondence and information report ending April 24th, 2023 be received for information.
Thank you very much. And looking at the list of correspondences, there could be something to say for several of these, so I'll let council start. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you, potentially to you, I guess. Item number C from the Minister Lawn, the summer games request or option to host the summer or winter games. Would this be a map discussion?
Thank you very much. I do have a note here that I was, yes, it would. The simple answer is yes. This has come to the agenda because I wanted to bring it to your attention right away because of the certainty that this, there was an elected official from MAP that did note that they would like to speak to this at MAP. So yes, the answer is yes. Any further questions? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just have a couple of items, or possibly a motion, maybe two motions, but just in relation to Mountain View Senior Housing, and I know we've talked of the challenges and the cost pressures they, like us, are under relative to budgets and operations and inflation and everything else. And what that trickle-down effect looks like to us in the municipality and the other members of Mountain View Senior Housing as far as requisitions. I would like to suggest or recommend, put a motion on the floor for council, specific to Mountain View Senior Housing, requesting administration to prepare a report on the town's financial obligations, legislative responsibilities, and options to manage the increasing cost of Mountain View Senior Housing membership and bring back to council by July 2023.
I think we already have a motion on the floor, Councillor Wilson. However, speaking, that doesn't mean that you cannot bring one forward at the next regular council meeting. Would that be too late for you? What you're doing is giving a notice of intent you're giving us a notice of intent, which is very good for our recording clerk, but right now we have a motion on the floor, so you'll have to hold that back. But thank you for sharing that. So what I will say then, to continue, is there anything further?
Yeah, I have another item then. I don't know if it's a motion or what, but I'd like to have...
Well, it can't be a motion. We have a
Right.
motion on the floor.
So I don't know if I need a motion though for this, but I'd like to have Stacy Stilling, the CEO, come in front of council to meet and to just give us an update on the Mountain View Senior Housing. I don't know if that requires a motion or not.
Representative sitting right next to you, Councillor Ryan, she can certainly check into that for you.
Good.
Is that correct? Thank you.
Thanks.
Very good. I just wanted to note to you then on page 113, the town of Tofield. I will be dealing with this letter in the same manner that council's asked me to deal with the previous letter that you've asked me to bring from the town of Barhead. So that will be going forward for your information. And on, I guess we don't need does anybody need, Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just want to go back to the letter from Minister Luan. Minister Long, about the Special Olympics Winter Games here. So I do actually have it on my page here. And this is a question for administration. Sorry, it's not Special Olympics, it's just the regular Summer and Winter Games. Is this something that in your opinion, as the administrator of the town of Olds, that the town of Olds could spearhead without the assistance of other communities in our area, or with a limited number of communities in our area where we take the lead and do this ourselves?
I'm going to say the answer is no, from previous years' experience. We've done this in the past, and it takes copious amount of volunteers to make this fly. But we can certainly get that information back to you, because it will be information that we'll be seeking.
Or I appreciate the answer, Mayor, I do. But I was asking for administration's opinion on that question, not your prior experience. Thanks for the answer, I appreciate it. I didn't know we had done that in the past and tried to do this. Did we do it before, or did we just try to do it before?
No, we did it before, but I'll move this over to CAO Williams as per your request.
Without knowing the facility obligations, it's hard to answer, but I would probably concur with Mayor Dahl's assessment that we would need to be part of the larger Highway 2 region, at least, with Didsbury, Carstairs, for instance, and Mountain View County. But if it's something council wishes to investigate, we can, but I would encourage that map discussion to play out first, so.
Thank you very much. I guess the only other question, is there any other questions from council? I only have one more, and it's on page 117, and it's with regards one more time. My question to you, CAO Williams, was, and you did share it in your CAO report, but do we not have to still do a confirmation of intent for the document for the the deadline's May 15th?
Sorry. Yes, we're in touch with the federal department right now. It's essentially accounts payable process right now. It's not necessarily needed for council to act on it.
Absolutely. I just wanted confirmation of that, because it keeps coming back to us and it does get addressed. So thank you for sharing that. All right, we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Ryan. Anything further? Nothing? I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Very good.
Just clarification coming from Councillor Wilson's comment, if he does have a notice of a motion coming forward to a next meeting, or if council wishes to deal with this meeting, we just need some clarity on that matter before we proceed.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
So if there's an opportunity to put it to a vote today, I would like to do that. We've already established that Councillor Ryan will approach our Mountain View Senior Housing CEO about appearing before council. If there's the opportunity to address the motion today, then let's do that.
Is it necessary to have the motion would be my question, and you can certainly put one on the floor, there's no doubt about it, but Councillor Ryan did agree that she would go back and speak to, it's your call.
Well, and my ask was two things. One was to have the CEO, Stacey Stilling, come before council to meet her. She's been in the chair for just under a year now. So an opportunity for her to come and meet council. There's a few initiatives that have been underway. They recently, based on the board update, they recently had a retreat. So it would be nice to hear what the outcome of the retreat is, to the extent she can share that. And then what their initiatives are and what their plan is going forward. And then the second part was to direct administration or request administration to do a little bit of a report.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan did have a response, and then we'll go from there.
Well, thank you. I'm not exactly sure what kind of a motion Councillor Wilson's trying to put on the floor. However, I did speak thoroughly to the retreat and what happened at the retreat back when I did my report. And if he has any questions, he can always ask me directly. I don't think you need a motion to put on the floor for that. And also, you know, we do have a board meeting coming up on May 4th, and I can always provide whatever Councillor Wilson has as a question to our CAO. But I don't think it needs to be a director from our council to direct another commission or board to do something that, you know, can be handled just by a simple question.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. And I was just sharing that because that's what we do in our ABCs and our boards, committees, and commission is try and get each other to take the question and bring the information back first, but it's entirely up to you if you wish to put a motion on the floor. Councillor Wilson.
Well, yeah, I would like, again, for the CEO to come before council. We know the Senior Housing Commissioner Board is under pressure, as I said, just like we are. There's been a significant increase in their requisitions over the last several years, not only to ourselves, but to the other 5 members of the Mountain View Senior Housing. And she's new to the role, so I think it would be interesting to hear her thoughts from a sales, marketing, revenue generation perspective in terms of how to reinvigorate the operation of the Mountain View Senior Housing. There's been meetings with government officials around funding. We know that there's a crunch on there in terms of that funding. I think it would be helpful and beneficial. I think we owe it to our citizens and our taxpayers to have that discussion, given the increase. And I think it's also would be helpful, if passed by council, to have administration look at those financial obligations, what the legislative requirements are, and how going forward do we manage those increasing costs, because they are increasing.
So are you saying you are going to put a motion on the floor because is it written down for Marcy? Because it seems,
Sure, I've got it written down, sure.
okay, as long as it's written down and you can read it out then, and it sounds like you're, sorry? Councillor Ryan, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. I don't know how to speak to this, but I just think that I have done a fairly good job in reporting on what's going on with Mountain View Seniors Housing and the financials. You know, it's not up to our CAO to investigate financials from another board. It's up for that board to come and report if that's what he wants. The CAO can do that. I'd have to ask her the question. I don't see there's a problem there. However, all the financials are all, like, there's even one in this package that's right here, and there's nothing else there's nothing hidden, if that's what he's thinking. And I don't think that there's anything our CAO should be doing to work into that area. We certainly have enough work for our CEO to do in our own town to concentrate on, so I'm a little confused.
Thank you. Before we close this, I have 2 other councillors that would like to speak, or would you think?
Well, if I may, I would just like to clarify, I'm not asking for the CEO or for administration necessarily to investigate and peel back the layers on the financials. I'm more requesting administration to look at the agreement that is in place, has been in place, I think, since 2002 or whenever the seniors board was formed.
1965.
Or earlier then, and what our obligations are, what our requirements are around us opting out or anybody else opting out, what that looks like, what the implications are. Does this agreement go in perpetuity? Because again, we've seen increasing costs, and likely costs are going to continue to increase, which translates to an impact for the municipality and the taxpayers.
Okay, we will Councillor Blatz, Councillor Cummings, and I believe Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and I believe that this is a conversation we should continue on another day. This is a requisition that comes to us. It is from the Alberta government. We really have not an awful lot of option with what comes forward. We do understand the struggles of Mountain View Seniors Housing. We are seeing it. We've seen our requisitions increase, which is unfortunate. It is, but I believe that this is something that we need to discuss further, perhaps not today. And I'm really confused on why, with the financials being provided today, why we're having this conversation. I don't think it's anything wrong with extending an invitation from council to their CAO to come speak to us. But at this point in time, I don't really believe that we have much option with the requisition. It comes from the province.
Councillor Blatz, Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think Councillor Blatz hit it on the nail right there. Maybe in previous councils or previous electoral periods, that legislation has been presented, or that idea, that concept of what are we legally obliged to do, and the full scope of that as a community, I don't know. I have absolutely no clue whatsoever. I didn't know that there was legislation made in 1965 until Councillor Blatz just mentioned it a moment ago, or Councillor Ryan, sorry, mentioned it a moment ago. I don't know. I think that's where Councillor Wilson is getting at, that as a town and how we address the financial burden on the town, or financial responsibility, whichever way you want to look at it, of Mountain View Senior Housing, that we need a little bit more information, because we haven't received, and I'm not saying that we haven't received the financial operational requirements of Mountain View Senior Housing. That's excellent, and has been reported on multiple times very efficiently and very effectively. We know exactly how much it costs to run Mountain View Senior Housing. That's not what Councillor Wilson is asking. I think what Councillor Wilson is asking is, what is our legal obligation as a town to Mountain View Senior Housing, and how can we address those obligations moving forward into the future? I believe that's what he's asking for. It's not a wagging the finger that Mountain View Senior Housing isn't doing something correct. No criticism of Mountain View Senior Housing. Just, can we get some, because I don't know. I don't know what our legal obligations are of a town on Mountain View Senior Housing. I don't think Councillor Wilson knows what our legal obligations are to Mountain View Senior Housing. We've been told we have a legal obligation to Mountain View Senior Housing. Yay, okay. Can we get some more detail? I think if Councillor Wilson were to read out the motion he has written down again, we'd all get a little bit more clarification that we're not asking our CAO to investigate Mountain View Senior Housing. We're asking him to investigate the town's responsibility to Mountain View Senior Housing legislatively. So I would like to see this brought up as a motion so that we can get some more information brought to council. We're not criticizing Mountain View Senior Housing, and I think that needs to be snipped in the bud here before we get into a tit-for-tat and finger-waving, which doesn't need to go on any further, because it's not a tit-for-tat finger-waving. We're just asking for clarification on the legal obligations the town of Olds has with Mountain View Senior Housing.
I know Councillor Ryan would like to speak one more time, and then I'll clarify as a sitting mayor here, I don't have the right to deny my councillors a motion, so then we'll move forward from there, whatever transpires. Councillor Ryan?
Well, thank you, Mayor Dolan. I think that just having CEO Stilling come to council would provide the information. She already has that information. Why would we waste our time having our CEO do what she can already provide? So if she comes, the council can ask those questions and clarify what it is. This was established in 1965 by a ministerial order, and opting out is not an option. So there would have to be something significant happen in order for the obligations to be eliminated from all of the communities that are involved in Mountain View Seniors Housing. So the obligation stands from 1965 when it first started. I'm not sure exactly which communities signed on at that point, but I know that it's been around since that long. So if she came, she'd be able to answer all those questions and give detail. But I don't think we should be taking up our CEO's time when she can answer that exact question.
Thank you. It seems a good one. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. And my brief comment is, and I thank Councillor Cummings for his comments, that's exactly the approach I'm requesting administration to take. And I would certainly like to hear, recognizing Councillor Ryan's point that CAO Stilling could certainly come in here and give us the viewpoint from Mountain View Senior Housing. I would certainly like council and our citizens to hear it from administration along the lines of, yes, What are we required? What are our legal obligations, legislatively, the financial obligations? And again, from the town's perspective, assuming the trend continues, which it has been there since 2002, going back through the financials, how can the town mitigate and manage the cost exposure we have relative to the requisition, given everything that's been said in terms of we're required to pay it? But again, I don't know, is this a perpetuity agreement? What if Mountain View, what if another member opts out? What does that mean and do for the town, and how do we handle that? So I would ask council to consider the motion.
C.A. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. So just in the interest of moving this conversation forward, I think what I'm hearing Councillor Wilson ask for is more of a high-level summary of the fiduciary and legislative obligations of the town vis-a-vis the Housing Act and that ministerial order Councillor Ryan speaks of. I don't have that information at the ready. I'm not well briefed on it, but if council wishes, we can prepare something along the lines in July? Yeah. So if council wishes, we could bring something back. If not, that's your discretion as well. So I would encourage Councillor Wilson to put his motion on the floor and let the cards fall where they may.
It's your turn.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and thank you, CEO, for your clarifying comments. And again, I will read the motion. The council, specific to Mountain View Senior Housing, request administration to prepare a report on the town's financial obligations, legislative responsibilities, and options to manage the increasing cost of Mountain View Senior Housing membership and bring back to council by July 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. All right, Councillor Walsh, question?
I'm not going to ask for a friendly motion, but bringing back options to get away from paying what we requisitioned, I think it's a bit more than what I understood what we're asking for. I would support bringing back information on our obligations, but exploring ways to reduce those obligations, that's a whole different story in my mind.
Yes. So what I'm hearing is that would you be open to a friendly amendment?
At this point, yes, I will accept the amendment. Basically, just the council specific to Mountain View Senior Housing, request administration to prepare a report on the town's financial obligations, and legislative responsibilities, and bring back to council by July 2023. And then, if the motion's accepted, once we get the report, then we can move to the next step, perhaps considering options.
Very good. Is that clear for everybody around the table right now? Clear? Everybody? Clear as mud? Okay. Okay, well then I'm going to call for the vote at this time on the motion. Those in favor? Those opposed? What did I get there? 4-3? Four opposed? Okay, it's defeated. Thank you for the discussion, ladies and gentlemen around the table. We will be moving into a closed session of our agenda now. And just to read for the public that when council goes into a closed session for continued participation in the virtual council meeting, stay online in the live stream meeting platform, and the meeting stream will be replaced by a graphic and music will play. When the music stops, the meeting is reconvening. If you choose to shut down your live stream, please watch on the Town of Old's social media feeds where we will be reconvening time will be posted. Thank you very much. I would ask for a motion, please, to move to in camera. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you. I move that we move in.
feel so guilty. You forgot what we were feeling. The time we spent keeps me bleeding. Where are you now? Why are you leaving? I can't find my way back. I should be
Birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. These are the important dates most people tend to remember. In the podcast Today in True Crime, Parcast takes you back to the biggest events in true crime that happened each day in history. Whether the crime is infamous or just plain interesting, you can find the story behind it every day of the year. From Parcast, check out the original series Today in True Crime. Follow and listen now on Spotify.
Spring Black Friday is on now at the Home Depot. Shop in-store or online before April 30th and save on patio, tools, appliances, barbecues, smart home, and more to kick off the spring season.
Hi, I'm Patrick Radden Keefe, a reporter at The New Yorker magazine. On my new podcast, Wind of Change, I investigate a rumor I haven't been able to shake since I first heard it years ago. It came from someone inside the CIA, and the story was that the agency had written one of the best-selling rock songs of all time, a song that changed the world. So that was the tip that started me on this story, and it only got crazier from there. Listen to Wind of Change, a new original series from Pineapple Street Studios, Crooked Media, and Spotify.
Choose your own offline listening adventure. Spotify Premium lets you download and take your music on the go. Try 3 free months of Premium now and cancel anytime. Tap the banner to learn more.
Hi, I'm Patrick Radden-Keefe, a reporter at the New Yorker magazine. On my new podcast, Wind of Change, I investigate a rumor I haven't been able to shake since I first heard it years ago. It came from someone inside the CIA, and the story was that the agency had written one of the best-selling rock songs of all time, a song that changed the world. So that was the tip that started me on this story, and it only got crazier from there. Listen to Wind of Change, a new original series from Pineapple Street Studios, Crooked Media, and Spotify.
Playlists are a window into your world. Listen to every song ad-free and uninterrupted with Spotify Premium. Explore 3 months for free and cancel anytime. Tap the banner to learn more.
Wendy here from Science Versus. For months, we've been covering this pandemic every step of the way. We've talked to Dr. Anthony Fauci about how political this has all gotten.
Oh yeah, well I make both sides angry every day, Wendy, so don't worry about that.
And we've asked, can we really get our vaccine come New Year?
I mean, you need everything to happen perfectly.
You cannot make it go so fast that you make a mistake.
Tap now to listen on Spotify. Back to you soon.
Alberta is suffering from a shortage of workers. The staffing situation is in crisis, and Albertans are bearing the cost. What's making this crisis worse? Diverting public services to private corporations drains workers away from public facilities. The result is our public services are undermined. Staffing shortages will get worse, wait times will get longer, and Albertans will suffer. We need to reinvest in the high-quality public services Albertans rely on, not hand over even more operations to profit-driven corporations. A message from the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees.
When you level up with Shaw's next generation Wi-Fi 6 technology, you level up your gaming. You're working from home, you're streaming, you're gramming, you're swiping, you're sharing, you're binging, you're listening, you're posting, you're scrolling, and scrolling.
Oh, wow.
And scrolling. Okay, now you're buying things by mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Level up your Wi-Fi with Shaw's next generation Wi-Fi 6 technology. Switch to Shaw today to get Fiber Plus Gig for $99 a month on a 2-year value plan. Conditions apply.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, viewers. We are now going to moved out of closed session, and I am looking for a motion for item 1, VoIP Section 16, and I'll go over here to Deputy Mayor Daley.
Thank you, Mayor Judy. I move that council accept for information the item number 1, dealing with development updates.
Thank you very much. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. And now item 2, please, VoIP Section 27 and 17. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For a little bit of housekeeping there, on the agenda package does list personnel as the reason for item number 2 going into a closed session. It was actually a legal discussion. So the motion will be that council accept for information the CAO's update on legal matters affecting the town. Again, in the motion, do I need to repeat the FOIP sections? I don't think so. The motion is just to accept the CAO report on the legal issues affecting the town.
Very good. I will, for item 2 then, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And I will adjourn this meeting at 3:43 p.m. Thank you for your viewing.